Hello, this is Kyle Gross-Miller. I'm a solutions architect at Pure Storage, and today we're going to walk you through a new deployment guide that we're super excited about, which is about automating your FlashStack deployment with the combination of SmartConfig as well as VMware Cloud Foundation. So why did we decide to create this deployment guide? And really what it comes down to is that there are three key issues that we see with legacy deployments. Obviously, you can still get a FlashStack deployment done today, but within that realm, we see really three things that continually come up. The first being consistency between deployments. Having a blueprint to deploy from is a lot easier than having to start from scratch and figure stuff out over and over and over again. So we want to prevent that snowflake type of deployment. Next one is complexity. What firmware versions work with what products and solutions. That's another issue where, customers and partners can spend hours researching if certain combinations of hardware and software will work together and, most importantly, be supported. Last but not least, right, is time. By automating this deployment, we truly believe and will demonstrate here that customers and partners will be able to get their FlashStack deployments online and running a lot more quickly than ever before. So to go along with the issues that we saw, this is what the core tenets that we'll be introducing within this deployment automation white paper and technical demo. VVD and CVD, you can see those on the left-hand side. VVD is VMware Virtual Design. CVD is Cisco Validated Design. These are blueprints by which every software version, every step of the deployment process are captured and available to customers to create a repeatable deployment on known software and firmware versions. So obviously by having these things pre-tested, pre-validated, and the blueprints there are available for customers and partners to use, that's going to accelerate how quickly you're going to be able to bring your solution online and have it start servicing I/O as well as applications. That leads to increased efficiency, again, because we spend all of the time supporting and testing and making sure that all of this stuff works together. That's less time you need to spend on patching, deployment, and then we also, of course, have suggested backup and recovery monitoring solutions, all of that good stuff bundled together as part of this deployment guide. This leads to less risk within your deployment and operations, and that not only extends to the software stack itself, but also to the underlying storage infrastructure. Pure Storage, for example, features AES 256-bit encryption at rest, and those keys rotate every 24 hours. So that's a big way to de-risk your deployment from if someone were to say gain access to your data center, they would not be able to reconstitute that data if they were to steal some drives from the Pure Storage flash array. And last but not least, and we'll touch on this primarily in the VMware Cloud Foundation portion of this demo and of this deployment guide, but what VMware Cloud Foundation enables is real IT agility, the ability to scale up and scale down vCenter clusters very quickly and add hosts to existing clusters or remove them as demand surges and wanes. So really giving customers that ability to quickly add capacity, compute, or memory to a initiative as necessary is a big part of the value that we see with this deployment topology. So really, our deployment automation has one main goal. We want to give a continuous flow that will solve the end-to-end deployment of FlashStack with VMware Cloud Foundation. VMware Cloud Foundation requires ESXi hosts as the input, which sounds easy enough, but of course, building a usable ESXi infrastructure is not an easy task by itself, which is where SmartConfig comes in. So really our goal with this is to firstly deploy an unset up FlashStack with SmartConfig, bring it up to the point where ESXi is installed. We'll then move into the next phase of the deployment where we deploy VMware Cloud Foundation with VMware Cloud Builder. I'll talk more about that in a bit. This is on VMware Cloud Foundation 4.0, which is using VMware Validated Design 6.0. And then finally, we'll talk a little bit about some different ways you can use Pure Storage with your deployed VMware Cloud Foundation infrastructure. There are a lot of ways to do it, and we'll step into both principal as well as supplemental storage and some of the other value adds that Pure Storage has within the VMware ecosystem. This guide is just released, so we will put a link to it. Obviously, this is just an overview presentation, but we will go into a lot more detail. Starting with SmartConfig, this is the partner-only FlashStack deployment tool. What it does is it really automates end-to-end your entire FlashStack deployment. There are 4 phases of it, where it discovers the underlying hardware, where you input configuration data either through a wizard or through a JSON file, initialize and configure all of the underlying UCS infrastructure as well as a Pure Storage flash array, and then finally go into the deployment phase. Again, part 1 and part 2 of the video demo series that we've created will really go into a lot of more detail here, including technical demo videos showing you step-by-step how to do it. And again, this is all based upon Cisco validated designs. So it's a simplified, disaggregated infrastructure template that is also highly customizable as well. SmartConfig is maybe a little different than some other pieces, but just briefly, this is how it controls that deployment process. You basically rack and cable your UCS gear according to what gear you are using as part of your FlashStack. You then connect it up to a isolated dumb switch or other native VLAN, that is with no VLAN tagging. SmartConfig can then be deployed on top of either, say, a laptop that's running VMware Fusion, or you can have, say, an ESXi server and then deploy the SmartConfig OVA on top of that. It does this via a private DHCP network, and then once the configuration is complete, you can then reconnect your out-of-band management interfaces into that customer production environment. Once that SmartConfig phase is done, we then move to VMware Cloud Foundation. This is a relatively new product from VMware, but really what it gives you is that single pane of glass management for your hybrid cloud solution. It's comprised of vSphere, NSX, vSAN, vRealize, as well as SDDC Manager. SDDC Manager is the brains of the operation. This is built on top of VMware validated designs, again, going along with that theme of validated blueprints. So this is the combination of Cisco validated design and VMware validated design. Not only does it help with that initial deployment phase, but it also provides single-click upgrade and lifecycle management for the vast majority of the underlying components managed within SDDC Manager. And perhaps most importantly for me, working for us and with this discussion, working at Pure Storage, it does support both vSAN as well as external third-party storage, such as us. There is a constructional point here I want to make around VMware Cloud Foundation domains. Management domain is what we will deploy in the second phase of this document. This runs on top of vSAN, and it is built with VMware Cloud Builder. Management domain is where all of your management plane lives. Even when you go to deploy a workload domain, that workload domain, vCenter, NSX, other items will be deployed on top of the management domain because it's aggregating together all of those different management tools. It's also a minimum 4-node configuration. Workload domains are similar to management domains, except the vSAN requirement is no longer there. So that allows for third-party storage, such as the Pure Storage flash array, to be used as the backing storage infrastructure. And we'll talk more about some of the advantages that we see with that later on within this technical demo. A workload domain has a minimum of 3 ESXi hosts and can go up much higher than that. And again, vSAN is not required with this. All of the steps with the workload domain deployment are automated via SDDC Manager. So deploying vCenter, deploying NSXT, adding hosts to that cluster, and then adding them within NSXT are all automatically handled. And again, this also brings in that lifecycle management construct as well, so that single-click upgrades can be accomplished on your workload domains. Finally, you can deploy a majority of the vRealize suite with all of this and connect your workload domains to them automatically post-deployment. So within this video series, what we're going to really go into here is part 1 and part 2. We'll cover our SmartConfig steps. Part 3 will be preparation of ESXi hosts with VMware Cloud Builder to build that management domain. And then we'll end it out with using workload domains with Pure Storage and some of the options there around principal as well as supplemental storage. A little bit more detail. Obviously, right now we're on the far left with the overview phase, but this is what the overall deployment process will look like. That prepare ESXi section is a little bit unique in that we use that to basically build a bridge between SmartConfig and VMware Cloud Builder, because VMware Cloud Builder does require a few things to be in place, like management IP addresses. So we'll show you a few just example ways that you can prepare ESXi hosts built by SmartConfig to then be used within VMware Cloud Builder as well as VMware Cloud Foundation. Please go ahead and, if you're interested, go to part 1 of this demo video and for some more in-depth technical demonstration of what we've got here. Thank you.